Ben DiNucci versus Brett Hundley, Seattle Sea Dragons versus Vegas Vipers. We're talking showdown. Let's get into this. What is up, guys? Welcome to the Edge DFS. My name is Tyson Smith, joined by Ellie Hernandez.
Doesn't matter what your name is.
We are back to talking showdown. Had a nice little hit last weekend, so I figured, you know what? There's definitely an edge in showdown still. We saw it with the weird ownership last week. Let's try to attack it again this week. We got the Sea Dragons, the Vipers. The Sea Dragons are sort of a juggernaut type DFS team that you want to target with all of the pass attempts. And the Vegas Vipers, last week they did not have a good week at home at that little shitty little baseball stadium that they play at, like AAA. It looked bad on TV, but it was raining, so it definitely affected the offenses. And you saw Brett Hundley come in after one or two drives to relieve Perez. We all knew that Hundley sort of had a chance to play in that game or start potentially. This week, it looks like he is starting. He's one of the highest paid players in the league, so they're going to get him on the field. This is looking to be a pretty damn good matchup, man. Pretty interesting. I really hope that the Vipers can show the same potential they showed in week one. And I think that people are going to be down on the Vipers this week, just if they're box score hunting and kind of looking around and seeing what they did last week. It was pretty pathetic last week. We probably can blame weather. We probably can blame switching the quarterbacks. Who knows? But I'm really hoping that this is a kind of a shootout. Supposedly, this is a 38 total. The Sea Dragons are favored, which doesn't surprise me at all. But both of these teams are 0-2. They're both underachieving. The Sea Dragons really need to learn how to close out games. I know that Ben DiNucci had a better game last week, and he led his team to the lead. And AJ McCarron just was better. So, anyways, I'm rambling right now, but I'm definitely excited about this particular matchup. And we kind of, we were thinking about which game we should do. We had a couple different options, but this was the clear option. So, anyways, Ellie, what are your thoughts, man? This should be a fun, entertaining game on a Saturday night.
Yeah, man, I'm excited for it. As you said, both these teams are 0-2. And it kind of matters at this point in the season. This isn't the NFL. You don't have 17, 18 weeks to make up for losses. But just something that popped into my head while you were talking there. Saturday is also the John Jones fight. So keep your eye on some of these contests. We could end up with overlay. I don't know how many people are going to be that tuned in. You might get some overlay in some of these big contests. So I don't know. We'll have to keep an eye on that, man.
Especially for a showdown, but... yeah, man, that showdown slate, that was actually it was actually Vegas Vipers and DC in that game that I got the 15K first place. And what just really, we talked about this a little bit on the main slate show, which, by the way, if you guys want to check out that show, I'll link it up above here and also at the end of the show and in the description. But we talked about how Perez was 80% owned in that game, and we just didn't quite understand why he was so high owned. And that was in the big contest. It wasn't like some random 25-cent 20 max. That was in the big contest that people were spending money on him left and right. So I think that there's opportunities if we're paying attention and we're kind of seeing some trends here. We can kind of exploit some of these players that we think might be overowned. We're not going to get ownership projections on the sites that we subscribe to, but I think we can kind of guess a pretty good amount which players are going to be the top owned. So let's actually just jump right into this first look. So if you want a copy of the full weekend first look on like a little PDF, you can join that Discord. It'll be free in there. You can just right click on it and download it just for your own reference. But we're seeing minus 150 on the money line for the Sea Dragons. Vipers are at home, and it's a 3.5 point spread. This is a 38 total. So this is definitely a very good showdown slate to talk about. But also on the main slate, this is going to be a very popular game as well. So what are your thoughts on it seems right to me. I know both teams are 0-2, but with the Vipers really underachieving, and we have yet to see a Hundley full game and see him actually play well. It's probably right that 3.5 spread, but I would be willing to put put a little bit of money on, if I was betting this game, I'd probably put some money on the Vipers money line. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean that's interesting. I definitely like the Vipers money line just because of the plus odds there, right? They're at home and they're getting their he is the most expensive quarterback in the league, Brent Hundley, highest paid player in the league. Because I think you explained it one of the other shows, right? They assigned the quarterbacks and dealt those contracts, and everybody else got capped out after that.
Yeah.
But look, not to stray too far from any narrative, I guess. I think the Sea Dragons have a little bit more on their shoulders, right? They have to win this one, otherwise there's a lot of questions there.
Yeah, totally.
Vegas, right? They didn't have their quarterback this whole time.
Yeah.
They aired it out, right? He had Brett Hundley had 18 attempts when he came last week when he came in, so it looks like they're gonna utilize him, man. So, I think they'll be a little bit more relaxed. So I do expect Seattle to win this because this is kind of it. I mean, do you bench Ben DiNucci? Do you fire your coach? Like, how does that work in the XFL? Like, what do we do?
It's sort of bad luck. Ben DiNucci had 2 turnovers in that first game that lost him the game. Last week, AJ McCarron was just better. They left too much time. So if they're 0-3, like, what do you do? Like, they're not bad. Like, they look good. Is this like a defensive problem? Probably. And if that's the case, man, the Vegas Vipers could be a team that we could stack heavily on and get some studs from Seattle and get a lot of leverage. All right, let's look at our injuries. I think this is going to be very important as we're closer. As we're getting closer to lock. We're recording this on Thursday night, so now we have a better idea as to where the injuries are going for the whole slate as well as mainly this game. So let's look at the injuries here.
Yeah, just pain. It was pain everywhere.
All right, so the big news here is Brendan Knox is out. So that's big news because Morgan Ellison is 5K and he's going to be starting this game. There's only 2 running backs on this roster. TJ Hammonds has been playing some wide out. He's been playing a little bit of wide receiver, but expect TJ Hammonds, he's at 3,200 to be the other running back, sort of coming in and giving Ellison some rest. Now, we've seen Ellison, what has he got, like 5 targets this year? He looks like he's getting involved in the pass game. There's really nobody else on this team that's run the ball. They just don't run the ball a lot. But I think Ellison's going to be the most popular player on the slate, probably because of the news. Or maybe he'll be like 2 or 3 because of some of these other names. But that is a big deal. And if you're playing main slate, keep an eye on him. He's going to be probably one of the most popular running backs on the slate, most likely. So keep an eye on him. Now, when it comes to the other side of the ball, for Vegas, you got Rod Smith. He practiced all week so far. We don't have obviously Friday yet. We're not recording there, but it looks like Rod Smith should be fine. He's probable. Sinkyu Sweeney, who is sort of slipping under the radar. I think he's a pretty good play. He was limited on Wednesday, but full practice today, so he's probable. And you got Geronimo Allison. He practiced all week. So you don't really have to worry about any of those dudes. Anything jump out to you here? What do you think about this running back situation for Seattle? I think there's a chance. I know this is going to sound bad, but I just don't love the running backs on this team. I think they're going to this team runs so many 4 wide receiver sets. They're really utilizing their wide receivers. Is there a chance that maybe Ellison's over-owned and you can get some leverage with him, or is it just like a free square?
I think there is a chance. I don't want to speak too definitively on the XFL, but I think it's probably more likely a free square. He's getting so much volume in the pass game, right? He's got 6 targets on the year. It just doesn't make sense to not play him. I don't think they really have anybody else too, right? They're pretty limited on depth.
Yeah.
Unless they're going to run their quarterback out there, which again, I don't know. They might do that.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to get a bulk of the rush opportunity. I mean, I think that's just the way it's going to go. So you're right. He could be an interesting option. I think in Showdown, his ownership concentration is going to be pretty high, and maybe you could fade him in a couple lineups. Maybe he just gets you 6-7 points. He has an average game, and you can get some leverage there. All right, let's do this breakdown, man. We're going to go position by position like we usually do. It's going to be a little bit more of a brief breakdown, and we're gonna spend some more time building lineups together. Hopefully this show is under 35 minutes. Let's get into it.
Break it down.
All right, so our boy Ben DiNucci. He's 10.4K. Brett Hundley 8,600. Man, that Brett Hundley price. If we were doing an NFL showdown slate and a quarterback like Brett Hundley was priced at 8,600, he would be a lock. And I actually still think I know that this is his first start, but this week he's obviously practiced with the ones. He came into camp late, so that's probably why Perez got the start. And we saw Perez do pretty well, but I feel like Brett Hundley, first of all, he's got rushing upside. He's started a lot of games in the NFL. You know, for the Packers, I believe in 2017, 2018, he had like 300 plus rush yards on that season in 11 games. He had like 7.5 yards per carry. So I think his rushing upside's there. I personally think that this guy could actually score a rushing touchdown in this game. I'm all in on Brett Hundley, and maybe it'll kill me, but look at the difference in pricing there. I think both of these guys can score pretty close to each other. What are your thoughts on these guys?
Yeah, man. Look, I love Brett Hundley. I think you play him as much as you can at captain. I think you play him in the flex. I'll probably have close to 100% of them. He's just mispriced, right? Like this might actually be a free square. Starting quarterback shouldn't be priced like that. Him and Ben DiNucci should probably be the same price. And this is kind of what we were talking about a little bit earlier, right? I don't know if they're going to be pricing these slates efficiently yet. So, we're going to have to keep that in mind because I value Brett Hundley is a safer play than most of the value that we're going to be finding, right?
Yeah.
At least we know he's going to touch the ball every single offensive snap, whether or not he's handing it off. So, and I like his rushing upside. I think you can probably get unique and maybe fade Ben DiNucci, prioritize getting Brett Hundley. Maybe you do a 4-2 on a slate like this, right, where you have 4 Vegas players, and that's why you have Hundley, and then you take pieces with the run back on the other side. So maybe that's how you get different. Ben DiNucci is going to be 60% owned. I mean, Luz Perez was 80%. We didn't even fucking know if he was going to play, right?
I know.
So, I mean, Ben could easily be 95%. You could fade him in 2 lineups of a 20 max and have, half the field.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it's true, man. I agree. Like with most of my builds, when I was building before the show, I ended up with both of these guys, but I would rather fade Ben DiNucci than Hundley. Like, I don't think that Ben DiNucci is going to get benched ever. Like, he could throw 3 picks and they're going to still run with him because of his upside. I don't think there's any chance that Hundley gets benched. They're paying him a lot of money. I think there's a chance that they could be shopping Perez to Orlando. So maybe they just stick with Hundley no matter what. I don't think there's any risk of bench with Hundley. I don't think there's really any risk with a bench with DiNucci either. But it's just worth noting that price difference is so much, man. Even if Brett Hundley gets you 15 fantasy points, he's most likely going to be in the optimal. It's just most likely going to happen. All right, let's go to running back here. So we got Morgan Ellison at 5K. Now, on the main slate, I think he's like 3,200 or 3,400 or somewhere around that. That's a smash play. That's almost a free square just because of the fact that they don't really have any other running backs on this team. They got TJ Hammonds, who's going to get some run, but Morgan Ellison's going to be in the game probably a majority of the time. So you're looking at, 5K is still pretty damn good. I'm very interested in him. I think captain with him is a great option. Besides that, you got Rod Smith at 6,400, John Lovett for Vegas at 5,400. Rod Smith is sort of underachieved. Ellie, what are his outputs this year? He hasn't looked great, even in a rain game last week where where running was so much. They had so many more opportunities to run the ball. He didn't really do too great. What are his numbers looking like this year?
Yeah, man, he's got 11 carries on the year, 39 yards. It looks like they just have a bunch of guys. Rod Smith, John Lovett, DeAndre Torrey, they each have 11, 8, 6 attempts respectively. So I think there's just a lot of people getting involved in the rush game. I mean, their punter has an attempt. And it's probably a fake, but it's just stuff to keep in mind. Whereas Morgan Ellison, right? he might be the only guy playing running back on the team. So
yeah.
I think you just kind of focus on Ellison from this group. I don't know if I'm going to have any of these other guys, to be honest.
Now, these running backs we've seen this year in the XFL, the running backs aren't getting a ton of volume in the actually running the ball. You're usually seeing, 10, 15 at most. I mean, I know we had Balaj, who had like a 24 carry game in week 1, but he sort of trailed off in week 2. I think the key here is if you think Morgan Ellison can get you receptions in the PPR game, you're really touchdown dependent on him if he's just getting 12 rushes. He's probably not going to pay off if he's only getting 12 rushes for 50 yards or whatever. You're going to need a touchdown out of him. Besides that, I'm not really super interested in Vegas run game, and maybe TJ Hammonds at 3,200 can get you a maybe he's in the game in the red zone or something random. Who knows? All right, let's go to wide receiver here. So obviously, Ja'Cour Pearson, he's 9,600. He'll probably be one of the top 3 owned players on the slate. He'll probably be one of the top owned captains. Josh Gordon at 10.2K. To me, I feel like his ownership is gonna start to go down a little bit each week that he doesn't have an absolutely bomb ass game. Week 1, he did well. Thankfully he had that random sort of Patrick Mahomes from DiNucci reception in the end zone there. That sort of saved his entire week. But we've seen Josh Gordon on the main slate be in the optimal pretty much both weeks, simply because of his volume and the volume of this team. He's 10.2K. He's expensive. Blake Jackson is 7,200. This guy is getting a ton of targets, just like Pearson. I think you could actually get a little bit of leverage and maybe fade Pearson in a couple lineups and play Blake Jackson instead. And Blake Jackson at captain, those builds look pretty damn good. We got a guy like Jordan Vesey here for Seattle, 1,400. I think he's probably the best value on the slate. We saw him have a pretty good game week 2, sorry. Actually, I mean, look at that. 7 points week 2, 4 points week 1. Maybe the 4 points isn't really paying off here, but he had a touchdown last week. So what are your thoughts here, man? Like, those are kind of the guys to talk about for Seattle. I guess the biggest question is here, do we have to play Ja'Cour Pearson? He had a big, 54-yard touchdown last week. There's just so many guys to play on this team. Do we have to concentrate a lot of our ownership? Like, are you going 60, 70, 80% with Pearson, or are you going to try to spread it out a little bit more to get some leverage?
No, I'm gonna be prioritizing these big names, and that includes Josh Gordon. Pearson's gonna be a building block of my lineups. I don't think I keep saying it, right? I don't think the pricing's efficient enough. Maybe we'll see that it's impossible to here in a second when we build, but I don't think the pricing's efficient enough to start fading these guys that just get insane volume. I mean, you got 22 targets going to Pearson, 17 to Blake Jackson, right? Like, that's an insane amount of volume, and like, you can literally stack both those guys naked, right? Or not naked, without Ben DiNucci. Right, let's whatever that's called.
Yeah,
right.
Just
I
for
think
PPR.
you'd be fine.
Yeah.
There's one touchdown between the two of them, right? So if one of them has the touchdown, the other has 8 receptions.
Yeah.
That's fine. This is where you want to pay up. This is why you have Brett Hundley at his discounted 8,600. This is why you have $5,000 running back, so that you can get the guys that you know are going to get thrown the ball. And what we're learning, I think, week over week here in XFL is that goddamn PPR matters, man.
Oh yeah.
It matters. So I think you prioritize these top end wide receivers, Pearson, Jackson, and even Gordon, right? His price tag is gonna scare people away, but he's got touchdowns. He has 1 touchdown, and he's gonna get involved. He's the biggest guy on the field. We know what he can do. He needs 1 40-yard touchdown to pay off, and it's again, you're gonna get a discounted guy there. We're not in a situation where salary is an issue.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of just
No, go ahead. I'm sorry, dude. I apologize. I didn't want to cut you off there. I just wanted to read this stat here from Cody Main on Twitter, which, by the way, you guys got to be following him if you're playing XFL. You can start to get a better idea of XFL offenses after 2 weeks and Seattle looking like a fantasy juggernaut. If you look at some of these numbers, 71.8% situation neutral pass rate, 71% red zone pass rate, 90% pass rate inside the 10-yard line. They're not running the ball inside the 10-yard line. When they're that close, they're passing it. Who benefits the most when everything is compressed and they're passing the ball? The tallest, most dominant wide receiver on the field, and that's Josh Gordon. I think he's slightly underachieved. I wouldn't even say that he's underachieved, but that's the guy that you're going to want to throw the ball up to and isolate, at the corner of the end zone and just throw it up to him and pray he catches it, which most likely he will. 4 wide receiver sets on 93% of the dropbacks. 4 more wide receivers, 67% routes run. So this team is just getting heavily involved with the pass game. And I really think a guy like Josh Gordon in this game, he might be slightly under-owned just because he didn't have a great week last week, and you have like Pearson and Blake Jackson doing well. So that's my thought on Seattle. I personally, I got to get 2 of these guys in each lineup. I just have to. There's just no way that, in my opinion, I know that last week Ben DiNucci had 29 pass attempts, which was way down from week 1. I don't know if that trend continues, but you got to expect him to throw the ball 30 plus times. And those targets have to go to somebody. And there's 4 guys on the field at once most of the time. Pearson, Gordon, Jackson, and most likely VC, maybe a little bit of Juwan Green. You got to get 2 of these guys, in my opinion. Jeff Badette is 9,200 for Vegas. Martavis Bryant, look at his pricing, dude. He's 7,400. Geronimo Allison, 7,800. In my opinion, this is probably the best, from top to bottom, wide receiver core in the league. Even more so than Seattle. The numbers haven't really represented that, but I think talent-wise, this probably is because, look at Badette absolutely went off week 1. You had to have him in your lineup if you were going to win. Martavis Bryant last week, up until, he was negative 1 point or whatever until they did a stack correction. He had 0 points last week. I think his ownership's going to be down. You see his pricing down. There's no evidence to me that he's a bust. I think I saw one dude on Twitter say that Martavis Bryant is the first XFL first rounder bust so far. And we're 2 weeks in. 1 week was a rain game where it was complete dog shit situation for everybody on the field. Geronimo Allison, 7,800. All 3 of these guys are in play. I think the most popular obviously is going to be Jeff Badette. But I think Martavis Bryant, there's some leverage to be had there. He's 7,400. I mean, he's a big dude, just like Josh Gordon, man. I think that one very unique build is Gordon and Bryant in the same lineup together. I know that sounds weird because they're one of the most popular names, but because of the recent struggles of Martavis Bryant, I think his ownership is just going to be too low. So what are your thoughts on that, man?
Yeah, man, I think that's fine. I love Martavis Bryant in this matchup. I'm going to be collecting as much of the passing game as I can, right? I want Hundley. I want him with a couple of his wide receivers, and I want to run it back with, Pearson Jackson or Pearson Gordon. And yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I think you start rotating these pieces out, and I honestly think you can start taking a little bit more stabs on some of these Vegas pieces, right? I mean, you're getting your quarterback, right? You're getting the offense. They're the guy that you built your offense around, and yeah, he's going to have a little bit more time. And just real quick, when you're talking about the bus and stuff, nobody knows what the fuck they're talking about, man. This is the same time you get in Pop Warner, right? 5 weeks to start playing games.
Yeah.
You go meet your friend. You go meet these people. Hey, coach.
Yeah, exactly.
So what, running gassers next? Nice to meet you, right? These guys just met. These offensive lines suck, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's why Josh Gordon isn't getting open necessarily, because the quarterback has it's a good release time in the NFL is what, 2.2 seconds. That's excellent. That's really good, right? Think about these guys, right? They probably have maybe half a second to a second to actually release before they're actually fucked. So anybody who's running a legitimate route, getting triple teamed, they're not going to have time to get open.
Yeah.
As we progress further in the season, we're going to start to see the lines get a little bit more consistency. Pockets start to be a little bit better. So look, these guys are going to get open, and they're they're in the NFL. We know how good they are. Play them. I don't think salary is going to be an issue. Wide receivers, the place where you want to just play guys you think are going to do well, and I think these are the guys.
Yeah, don't sleep on Geronimo Allison either at 7,800. He hasn't really done anything this year, but he's a top-notch dude. He's going to be on the field a lot. All three of these dudes are going to be on the field a lot. The last guy to mention here is Sinque Sweeting. That's such a weird-ass name. He's 4,800. Read off some of his stats, Ellie. He's looking pretty decent this year. He's kind of like the second best wide receiver on this team, just based on the first 2 weeks, which, that's not a whole lot to talk about. But 16 fantasy points week 1 with a touchdown, 64 yards. I'm throwing out last week as if it didn't matter. He's well priced, and I think he's going to be forgotten about. You could throw him in the flex. You can throw him at captain, right?
Yeah, absolutely. 4,800, man. He's got 7 targets on the year, a touchdown. If he continues to get involved in the offense, 4,800 is a perfect pivot off of 5K running back guy. So these are the things that'll probably make you a little bit different. Sweeting could easily be 5% owned.
Yeah.
So if you have him, he has the touchdown, then you're solid.
Compared to 50% Morgan Ellison at the same price, basically.
And hey guys, if you want, we have an Excel file kind of just consolidated all these stats into a little bit easier to read format. You can pull that out of the Discord. That's kind of what we're just reading off of to kind of help us here. Got some little bullshit slicers in there so you can choose what team you're working with. It's nothing predictive or anything like that. These are best we could do compiling from what's on the internet so we could read it real quick.
Which is nice because there's not a lot of opportunity to look at snaps and and just even like targets. There's just not a whole lot of opportunity to find that data. All right, so let's go to tight end, which is we're gonna spend a whole 1 second on this. I'm not playing any tight ends. Seattle doesn't even have a tight end on the team, and Brandon Dillon, he's projected for 1 fantasy point. I'm not really super interested, especially with all the other pass catchers. Let's talk about kickers here. I never thought I would be excited to maybe talk about kickers. I'm not even going to name these dudes off. I don't really even know who the hell these guys are. Eberle and Giffen sounds like some weird sitcom from the 90s. This is the one reason why I'm excited to kind of talk about this is they're 1K. These dudes are each the minimum. We're not, an NFL showdown, we were getting, $200 guys, $800 guys. 1K so far has been the lowest I've seen. And these dudes, look, if Eberle or Giffen get a 40-yard field goal, we've seen some of these kickers hit these 40-yard field goals. We've even seen a couple 50-yarders hit this year. If one of these dudes gets a 30-yarder and a 40-yarder, they're going to be in the optimal. It's 1,000 points. That would be the 7 points. I know that these guys don't get extra point opportunities, but that's why they're so cheap. But 7 fantasy points for a dude that's $1,000, that's the equivalent of some random ass dude scoring a touchdown. So you got to think about sprinkling these guys in. I know we're not really getting, I'm not really seeing very good projections on them, but 1K, I'm not going to get too carried away, but maybe sprinkle them in a little bit. What are your thoughts on this, man? Am I crazy?
I don't know that you're going to get very decent projections on them. I think projecting them close to 3.5 points is probably the way to go. I think at 1K, even 3.5 is decent. If everything is efficiently priced, right? Which again, I'm not sure that we're there yet. So I really don't have too strong of a take. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I don't like kickers. So coming into this, I was expecting not to play them at all. I was expecting them to be around 38 for 4K like NFL, but given this price, I'll have to see. But when we get into the build here, man, I don't know if we're going to be forced to land there, but they may be better options than some of these other punts that we have. So I don't know. We'll see where we are when we're building.
I still think that it's a Hail Mary to play these guys, but instead of getting some, we have a $1,400 wide receiver that I think can do well, and at least get you 3 or 4 fantasy points at minimum. But if we weren't looking at any other value at all, maybe it would be worth considering here. All right, so defenses, the Sea Dragons are 4,600, the Vipers are 4,200. This is the XFL, man. The totals are 38. If this was an NFL game and you're looking at a 38 total, you're fucking throw those defenses in, And even a high-powered offense like Seattle, Ben DiNucci makes mistakes, and there's sacks given up. A pick six or a fumble recovery for a touchdown is not out of the question. And you could play these defenses against offensive players. You could play the Vipers defense against Ben DiNucci. You could play Sea Dragons against Hundley. So I know it's weird. That rain game, I stacked both defenses and both quarterbacks from the same team, King and Te'amu, with both defenses. I'm not going to do anything crazy like that this week because it's not a crazy weather game. But we got to talk about these defenses. They get a huge boost just because this is the XFL, and I think the defenses kind of have a little bit of an advantage sometimes, right?
Yeah, man. I think you probably want to have a decent amount of exposure to both these guys. I think I'm leaning a little bit more towards Vegas just because the amount of attempts that we're seeing out of Ben DiNucci. Look, I mean, I know he only had 29 last week, but the week prior was 54. So if he continues that pace, anything over 30 attempts, really 25 even for XFL, is probably a lot of attempts for a player. That's when you can start expecting turnovers, man. If he gets back up into that 35 to 40 attempt mark, I could easily see a pick six or two. So, even right, he's been sacked twice in the year, and then I think we got 2 sacks on the other guy. So look, I mean, both teams are vulnerable to the quarterback. No, Brent Hundley's been sacked twice, and then Perez has been sacked 3 times. So that's even worse. So maybe lean Seattle defense. I think both are in play. I'll probably have decent exposure to both of them, and I will be playing both of them in the same lineup. And I don't usually do shit like that.
All right, let's get to our captain, our crown their ass segment here.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
Ellie, you're going Ellison. I think this is a really smart play here. He's 5K. You throw him at captain, and you could do whatever the hell you want. And in addition to that, you still have the upside with the fact that he's basically the only running back on the team. I know there's another guy that they'll probably rotate in, but he's been the guy that's actually been getting reps at running back. So you have the volume, you have the price. It's gonna be hard to avoid him, especially in optimizers. You're gonna have to cap him because he's gonna be in like 90% of your lineups if you don't cap him. I'm going with Martavis Bryant. This is just a gut feeling. First of all, his pricing is way down. He's at 7,400. His ownership is going to be down. And we've only really seen one game out of him at full strength, minus that rain game where they weren't really passing the ball much and they couldn't really do much. He still had 9 targets in that first game. If he had a touchdown, one of those targets, this would be a whole different conversation. So I think Bryant, there's a possibility that at 7,400 with his upside, I think he's a good option. Most likely to me, Bidet, Hundley, Gordon, Pearson, those guys are the smarter plays. If you're doing, and even Ellison, they're smarter plays. But if you're looking for high upside with low ownership and medium price, this is probably the guy to talk about. These wide receivers, the best wide receivers, are so much better than the second, third wide receivers. I feel like Bryant has that upside, and this is just a gut feeling for me. There's really no other information behind it, but besides the fact that I think his ownership is going to be a lot lower. All right, let's go to our fade.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
Let me hit the right button here. All right, so Ellie, you're going to fade the kickers. Now that you know that they're 1,000, I think before the show you thought they were priced up a little bit, and I would have totally agreed with you. Are you still sticking with that? I mean, by fade, you're probably going to get like 5% of them. I think the field is probably going to be around that, maybe 10%, right? So, would you still consider it a fade?
Yeah, I don't know if I'll end up on the kickers, man. I'll probably have to talk to myself into it, but I'll probably end up Xing them out. I just don't know that they're going to be needed with the pricing inefficiencies that we're seeing still.
Yeah, I feel you. All right, so for me, I'm just not super excited about the run game on both sides. I'm not saying not to play Seattle's running back, but I think the way he gets there is through the pass game and getting some PPR touches. And he's got to score a touchdown, basically. or maybe he gets you 40 rushing yards and 30 receiving yards with 3 receptions or something. That's how he can get there. But when it comes to just strictly running backs like Rod Smith and some of these other guys that are just going to get handed off the ball maybe 10 times, 12 times, I'm not super interested. All right, so let's get to our lineup build here. Let me switch over. So we appreciate you guys. Throw us a like. Join that Discord. You could scan that on the bottom of the screen here. Or if you were watching on your cell phone, you can just click down in the description and click on that. It's free to join. We have a bunch of free stuff there. There's also some great guys in there talking strategy. Also, if you're interested in Stochastic membership, you can scan that down below or click in the description. So let's build sort of a safe cashy sort of build for Showdown. I know it's a little bit difficult for Showdown. It's a lot easier to build a cash lineup for the main slate. But let's build one together. So don't you think that probably Ben DiNucci is probably the cash option, or is it Pearson? It's probably one of those two guys, right?
No, I think it's Ben DiNucci.
All right, so let's put him at quarterback, or let's put him at captain. Boom. You got to pair him with Pearson for cash. You probably got to put in Ellison as well here. And you got to put in Brett Hundley, I think. I think that's like a solid core for cash. Now we got about 5,600 a pop. So I don't know where we go from here. You probably want to get a guy like Bidet, or maybe you just say, screw it. You're going to capture everything from Hundley with his pass catchers. Maybe you go with a guy like Blake Jackson, who has a decent target amount, and he's only 7,200. What do you think? Because if we go with Blake Jackson, that leaves us with 5K left, and we can do a lot with that. If you go with Bidet, you're going to only have 2K left. Now, you could go with a guy like Jordan Vesey as well. So if you go with Bidet, you get VC, and that's a little bit more of a balanced lineup. What do you think we should do here, man?
Well, I mean, we're still building cash, right? So
yeah, we are.
I think we need to stick with the Vegas side of the ball. Let's throw in either Bidet. I mean, honestly, even fine with going down to Martavis Bryant if you want. But I think Bidet would probably be.
I think you got to go Bidet. I think you have to. Yeah. His volume is there, and his ownership is going to be there. So that leaves you 2K. Now you can play pretty much whoever the hell you want here. I think VC is a pretty decent play. Now, I know that it's kind of weird to be playing him in cash because it's more of a GPP play. But by playing him, you really only need a couple receptions from him. You don't need a big game. As long as all these other studs play the way they're supposed to play, I think this is a decent cash build. As we get closer, maybe we'll change things up and we'll post that in the Discord. But I think this is a good starting point. Do you have any other thoughts on this?
No, I think it's fine. Maybe if you don't like that last spot and you think, these teams are 0-2, so there's a potential that they will take points when they're able. Throw in one of the kickers, and I think you're fine.
Yeah. All right, let's build like 2 tournament lineups, and then we'll get the hell out of here. Try to keep this quick. Who do you want to go with first here?
Just throw in Ellison.
All right, let's do it. Let's just build our captains, right? Ellison. All right, is this a Ben DiNucci fade?
Yes, fade him.
All right, I love it. So let's go Hundley here. Let's go Pearson and Gordon probably, right? Since we're fading DiNucci, or Pearson and Blake.
Let's go Pearson and Gordon.
Okay. So assuming Gordon gets the touchdown, Pearson gets like 9 receptions. You don't really need Ben DiNucci in this lineup potentially. Who else we got? We got plenty of salary here, man. We got 7K a pop. So we can do whatever the hell we want. You probably want to go with one of these Vegas wide receivers. We could go
let's
Bidet.
Let's do Martavis Bryant.
Let's do it. All right. I love it. Gordon and Bryant together. I really like that for some reason. 6,700. Where does that put us here? Excuse me. Rod Smith, love it. Ellison, probably a guy like Sweeting to me. Pair Bryant, Sweeting with Hundley. and you leave money on the table, which is completely fine. I think that's actually probably what you want to do in all cases. There's going to be some leverage to be had there. We've seen with the main slate, there's a ton of money left on the table usually, and usually that's going to happen with Showdown. This is a pretty decent lineup. What do you think? Do you have anything we want to change here?
Yeah, actually, pull out Sweeting. Throw in Sea Dragon's defense. Like, I mean, again, I don't.
Okay.
The pricing is inefficient enough. Like, I think you can kind of just find builds that you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
And this is something that I don't mind either. You know, we don't have Ben DiNucci in here. Maybe he throws 2 pick sixes. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, I love it. All right, let's go with Martavis Bryant. Where are you, bro? Look at that. Boom, pop him in. Let's go with both quarterbacks here. The Nooch and Hundley in this one just to start. All right, where do we go? We have to get, at minimum, Pearson, Jackson, or Gordon. Probably 2 of them, but at minimum 1. You probably just want to plug in Pearson here, right?
I mean, do you have any opposition? Throw in Pearson, Jackson. Let's just see what we can do.
Exactly what I was thinking of doing, for sure. 3,100. So
yeah, man, like there's guys that like you. I mean, you're comfortable playing at 1,400. Jordan VC, like
VC.
Again, like, I think you have the flexibility here, man. Like this isn't the same thing as when we would punt with the Chiefs throwing in. Like we're not throwing in VC because he's got the best quarterback in the world throwing to him. We're throwing in VC because he's probably going to get a couple targets and. Draftkings isn't 100% sure what he should be priced at.
No, he should be priced higher than this for sure, and so you got to exploit that a bit. You instead of VC, you could here. Let me look at who else we're looking at for value. Not really anybody. I mean, maybe Juwan Green you could throw in, or the kickers. That's pretty much where you're looking here. So after building these lineups, Ellie, what do you think, man? Like. I feel like this is pretty straightforward. Get the studs, maybe get a little bit different at captain. And if we start to get ownership projections, or if you have some sort of feeling about where the ownership's coming in, if it's one of these dudes that is just like going to be 60, 70% owned, you might think about fading him. Like if Ellison, I mean, yeah, he's in a pretty good spot, but he's 5K. It's not like he's like $2,000. 5K will probably pay off, but if you're gonna solo ship a big tournament, you need him to do well. You need him to have 15 fantasy points probably, or 12 or something. Unless this is a low scoring game, then it probably won't matter. But my only thought is don't be afraid to fade some of these higher priced dudes that come in super high ownership if you have a good feeling about it. So what are your thoughts, man? Any thoughts to wrap this up?
Yeah, man. I think the last thing I have is I'm with you. We don't have any strong takes on anything. Even though the 5K guy is my favorite captain, I'm not gonna have 100% exposure to him. I'll have 100% exposure to the top 2 or 3 wide receivers. Outside of that, I'm gonna be throwing in any random name, anybody that I think is gonna be active and out there playing. So if you're following along on Twitter and you happen to get some random news and you get a gut feeling about a guy. Play him. We don't know, man. Build your lineup around that feeling. Just make sure everything correlates to what you think will happen.
I know I got lucky. I've gotten so unlucky with Showdown NFL. Like literally so many times I've been in first place with a huge number there, and some the quarterback kneels to end the game and I lose a lot of money. Like I've gotten so unlucky. I'll take the luck when I can get it. But my point is that lineup that I built was weird, but it wasn't stupid. So you can make weird lineups as long as there's a reason behind it. I feel like that's just a halfway decent way to think about it if you're hand building. And obviously if you're crunching lineups, try to set rules. Try not to get too restrictive because there's some weird shit that happens in the XFL. But I think I might stick with hand building lineups. I might end up doing higher priced single entries, or maybe higher 2 or 3 bullets in the big contest or something for Showdown. And I'll probably end up doing most of my entry fees into the main slate. But that's just where I'm gonna roll. What are you gonna do here for? What are you thinking? Are you gonna be doing some 20 maxes? What are you doing this weekend on Saturday for Showdown?
Yeah, I'll probably do a couple 20 maxes. It really depends. I'll need to look at the UFC slate and see how much I'll be playing that too. So it's hard for me to multitask sports, man. When I have NBA and another sport, like it's already tough for me. So I'll have NBA, UFC, and Showdown. But no, I'll probably max out all the 20 max they got, man. I love the 20 max contests.
All right, if you guys want to check out that main slate show, it's going to show up here in a second when we sign off. Click on that, and then like this on the way out. And if you're not subscribed, hey, we're doing shows every week. We're doing shows for every one of these slates, and we'll try to sprinkle in some Showdown slates here as well. We'll see you guys later. We appreciate it.